Alright, welcome to Angles Formed by Chords, Level 2. Now in our first example, we want to find angle DEA. And I always want you to think of this, when we see this angle symbol, we see it forms a sharp point, and it's made up of these three letters. So we start at D, we go to E, which is in the middle, and we go to A, and our angle is formed at the vertex E. Also, we talked about this in our last video, but when you look at that vertex, what would we call this? Would it be a vertex inside the circle, on the circle, or outside the circle? Think about it. And in this case, it would actually be a vertex that we would say is inside the circle. Now, anytime we have a vertex inside the circle, that will give us a specific formula, which we will reference in a second. When I look at arc DA, I know arc DA is 21 degrees. So I come over here to this curved portion of the circle in between the letters D and A, and I'll go ahead and write 21 degrees. We also are given that arc BC is equal to 38 degrees, and so I'll come over here and I'll draw arc BC, and I will also label that one 38 degrees. Now, switching back to yellow, because this is how I want to go ahead and do my function, we said that we had a vertex that was on the inside. So referencing our level 1 video, we know that this gives us the formula angle 1 equals 1/2 times, we'll call this arc X plus arc Y, where we know that arc X is our smaller arc and arc Y is our larger arc. So I still don't know what angle 1 is, because when we look right over here, well, this is what we're trying to find. So I'm going to leave this as angle 1 equals, and we'll write 1/2 parentheses. We always want to assume arc X is our larger arc. In this case, that would be the 38 degrees. And so we'll go ahead and write 38 degrees plus our smaller arc, arc Y, which is 21 degrees. And whenever we look at this side, we actually don't see any letters or any variables. And so we actually just want to simplify it using our order of operations. Inside the parentheses, we have the 38 plus 21. So we'll simplify that first. And we get 1/2 times, and 38 plus 21 turns out to be 59. And of course, we could still say 59 degrees. Now, we have this fraction outside the parentheses. This will imply that we should multiply, and we'll say, what is 1/2 of 59? Well, that's going to wind up being 29.5 degrees. And we can actually always think of this angle 1 as being the average of our two subtended arcs. Now I can go over here to where we have our angle measure, and we can write that in. Hey, that turned out to be 29.5 degrees. And I am so sorry. That was a little hard to squeeze in here. Let's try that again. And that was 29.5 degrees. Well, a little better job right there. Okay, let's go ahead, and I hope you've written that down. At least write this down, this formula right here on the top of your paper. And let's go on to example 2. So let's see. So we will clear that off. And let's write out example 2. Now in this one, for time's sake, I'm going to do a little bit of shorthand. We have our first chord. We have our second chord. And I want you to find this angle right here. And we'll say, hey, let's give that a question mark. Now, let's go ahead and say this subtended arc right here from point A to point B, let's say that that is 27 degrees. 27 degrees. And let's call this point D and point C. And it's going to have to be smaller, so let's actually call that 10 degrees. Well, because our vertex, which we can call point E, our vertex is inside the circle, we'll still use this formula. Angle 1 equals 1/2 parentheses arc X plus arc Y. And let me go and kind of annotate these things in red so it's very obvious. We said that an angle forms a sharp point, and we see our sharp point is right there. So this is, in fact, the angle we're looking for, but we don't know it, and so we'll just go ahead and keep that consistently as angle 1 equals 1/2 parentheses. Now we come over here, let's kind of annotate this in red. We know we have arc X is our larger arc. Well, that turns out it's going to be that 27. And so I can plug that in. We'll say, hey, we have our 27 degrees plus, and we know our arc Y is our smaller arc, which will be 10 degrees. And so I'll go ahead and write 10 right there. Now, switching back kind of to our yellow color, we'll see that we have angle 1 equals, and like we said before, there's really no variable here. And since there's no variable here, we know we just want to go ahead and follow our order of operations. We will first add what we see in the parentheses, and so we get 1/2 parentheses. 27 plus 10 is, I think that's 37, in this case, degrees. And now we have our 1/2, our fraction is right beside the parentheses. We know that we want to multiply these two things. And let's see, what is 1/2 of 37? It appears that would be 18.5 degrees. And so right over here, where we have our question mark, we can go ahead and use our hard eraser, erase that, because now we know that that is going to in fact be 18.5 degrees. All right, try these examples and good luck.